Could the Dodgers be working on an extension with Tommy Edman? And do we want to see Cody Bellinger back on the Dodgers? Let's get into it. Let's get locked on Dodgers.
You are Locked On Dodgers, your daily Los Angeles Dodgers podcast. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Yo, Dodger fans. Welcome to Locked On Dodgers. We are part of the Locked On Podcast Network, the #1 local sports daily podcast network. Locked On, your team every day. Today's episode is brought to you by Game Time. Download the Game Time app, create an account, and use code LOCKEDONMLB for $20 off your first purchase. This is a daily podcast covering the World Series champion Los Angeles Dodgers, bringing you the smart fans' perspective on our boys in blue. You can find us where we find podcasts and on YouTube. All you got to do is search for Locked On Dodgers, and you can make that easier on yourself by subscribing and get notified when our episodes are ready or when we're going live here on YouTube, like we do most nights these days. If this is your first time listening, watching, welcome. I'm Samperio. That's Jeff Snider. And Jeff and I have been doing this podcast here for over 6 years now, 6 seasons. We've been doing a Dodger podcast for 9 years now. We've been covering the team, writing, talking to players, doing all that type of stuff, being in the press box, being in the locker room for 10 years now. So, we've been doing this a long time. We've been Dodger fans even longer. We've watched a lot of Dodger games, and we've talked a lot about the Dodgers. And that's what we're here to do once again today. And, Jeff, it's been now here on Monday night. If you're listening to this on Tuesday, it would have been yesterday. 1 month since Freddie Freeman's walk-off grand slam in Game 1 of the World Series.
Yeah, I watched it again tonight. I would guess, how many times have you watched it, Vince? I would guess I've watched that home run 250 times.
Yeah, I'm definitely over 150 for sure.
Because 250 would be about 8 times a day over the last month, which feels about right. Because even just scrolling Instagram, like it keeps popping up, different angles of it, different things. So just, and then sometimes I just, like tonight, I actually didn't watch that one on the recaps tonight. Tonight I sat down and I watched the recaps of the last game of each series. So the Padres, Mets, and Yankees. That was my 20 minutes of Dodger enjoyment tonight. But I did see Freddie's home run 5 or 6 times on Instagram today at different points.
Yeah, every anniversary of it, we're going to see more of it. And I think before we get into like Tommy Edman, kind of how we talked about when we kind of compared it to Kirk Gibson's home run, I think it's easier to watch because, when they show Kirk Gibson's home run, then you want to go back and watch the whole at-bat. When you do that with Freddie Freeman, that is the whole at-bat.
Yeah, it was the whole at-bat, yeah.
Yeah, so a little bit different there. But, yeah,
although it's pretty fun watching the whole Gibson at-bat, too.
Well, I mean, there's no right or wrong there. I'm just saying, like, when you watch the Gibson one, it takes longer. When you watch the Freddie one, you can rewatch it like 10 times in the span of a minute.
For sure. And I would guess that at this point, I've watched the Freeman home run almost as many times as I've watched the Gibson home run, even though I've had 36 years to watch the Gibson homer. And I've watched it a lot. I have the DVD. I have, I watched that a lot. I could quote you the entire inning, every word that Vin Scully says, but just the nature of social media and everything. And like you said, the longer at bat, I would guess it's Freddie is pretty close to Gibby as far as how many times I've watched it.
Yeah. All right. Tommy Edman is someone the Dodgers traded for and ended up being NLCS MVP. Still has 1 year left on his deal, but there was a report from John Morosi that said the Dodgers have at least started conversations about a contract extension with Tommy Edman, which makes a lot of sense for a couple reasons. One of those reasons being obviously he performed pretty well with the Dodgers. In the regular season, it was a little bit, kind of hot and cold, but ultimately decent. Obviously, postseason, he was one of the better players offensively. He really filled in at short and center field wherever they needed him. And 2, because we had heard for a while, or we'd heard a lot when they traded for him, that they've been interested in him for a long time. So if someone that you want, and then you get him, and then he performs well, you probably want to keep him around a little bit longer.
Yeah, absolutely. And I love Tommy Edman, and we were maybe a little higher than some people on that trade when it happened, just because, I've always been a fan of Tommy Edman's game. I do have some concerns about his game. For one, I hope, kind of like Miguel Rojas, but in a different way, maybe more like Kike Hernandez. I hope that Tommy Edman isn't the starter at any position for the Dodgers. I don't think he is a good enough hitter to be the Dodgers starting shortstop or center fielder. Not that he's not a good enough hitter to be a starter at one of those positions, but for a team like the Dodgers who can afford to prioritize, get the best of the best, I think a lot of Edman's value comes from his versatility and the fact that he can play all over the field and can substitute and can, even pinch run for you when you need to late in a game, on base, and okay, let's get Edman in there to run for him. I would love to see Edman back. Well, he's going to be back in 2025. He's under contract for one more year. I'd like to see him be a Dodger for a long time, but I would like his role to be that he starts 4 times a week at 3 different positions and, comes in as a pinch hitter, those kind of things, rather than we're signing Tommy Edman to be our starting center fielder.
Yeah, I don't know if I feel that strongly in that sense, because if you surround the rest of the team with, good enough players, and Tommy Edman as your starting center fielder isn't the worst. I can see what side you're coming from in sense of, he could be the ultimate utility man and still play 120, 130 games and kind of fill in everywhere else. But I've watched a lot of bad players play positions for the Dodgers over the last few years. Some by default, some by injury, some that just didn't work out. And, Tommy Edman is not anywhere really near those guys. So if he was an everyday starter in center field, but they got, let's just say you sign Willy Adames and then Edman's your everyday center fielder because maybe you're not going to spend any more, and you re-sign Teoscar. Like that's a solid 1 through 9. Tommy Edman's probably your 9th best hitter in that lineup overall, but that's not a bad way to go about it. So I guess it just kind of depends on what else they do. But again, we're always speaking from the point of the Dodgers can afford to do whatever they want. And if you're a team that can afford to do whatever they want, yeah, having Tommy Edman as the Kike or Chris Taylor or Miguel Rojas makes your team a lot better.
Absolutely. And my only real concern about him is that he doesn't hit very well left-handed, and that is going to be 2/3 of his at-bats. If he's playing every day, I think that you're getting the most out of him if you do kind of prioritize those at-bats against left-handed pitchers or against right-handed pitchers like Tommy Kahnle or who was it on the Padres, Suarez, who Edman batted right-handed against. I wonder if he's thinking about just becoming a right-handed hitter. I wonder if he'd hit righties better right-handed than he does left-handed. I don't know. But overall, yeah, I think a lot of Tommy Edman's value comes from his versatility, and you lose that locking him into a role. But also one thing we've seen from the Dodgers the last several years is that, Miguel Rojas wasn't supposed to be a starter either of the 2 years he's been back on the Dodgers, and he's been the starting shortstop both years because of injuries. And so, yeah, Edman probably would end up playing 145 games, even if they sign him to be a utility guy. And I guess that's more that approach, like you're saying. Like, I want them to shoot for the stars at every position. I want them to, and honestly, and we're not going to make this about Juan Soto because I just talked about Juan Soto yesterday, and I was joking with Richard Flores, who's in the chat, that he would probably revolt if I did a second straight Juan Soto episode. But there was a report tonight that the Dodgers are one of 5 teams that have made a contract offer to Juan Soto. If the Dodgers brought in Soto and Teoscar, then I'm fine with Edman in center field. If you've got that much offense on the corners, yeah, if Tommy Edman is very clearly your number 9 hitter, I'm all about letting him play every day. It's just I want the Dodgers shooting for the stars as much as possible in free agency and trades.
Yeah, and that's really what it comes down to. Not so much, if you have 8 guys at OPS, 110 or more, and then you have Tommy Edman who hovers around 100, you're going to be well off, especially. And this is the thing, like with Edman, he was 101 OPS plus on the season with the Dodgers, and obviously probably a little bit higher in the postseason. But I don't think it's a matter of like they unlocked anything, because there was that stretch. He had that stretch where he hit 5 homers in the span of a week, but he only hit 6 homers in his entire time with the Dodgers. So like, it was hot and cold. It was.
They hit 4 homers in 2 days.
Yeah, that's what it was. So it's, again, if Tommy Edman starting in center field next year, I don't have an issue with it. If he's starting at shortstop next year to start, I don't have an issue with it. But if the Dodgers have enough good players to where he's not a starter, then you get even more excited than you probably already are.
Yeah, if he is like the upgrade to Chris Taylor, basically better defensively and offensively and playing that utility role, but a utility player who you actually feel comfortable putting in the lineup, unlike Chris Taylor, I'll take it for sure.
Yeah. All right. We're going to talk about somebody that could also, I guess, play center field for the Dodgers. Technically, Cody Bellinger, one guy who's already played there before. Should the Dodgers be in on this at all? We'll talk about it. So make sure to keep it locked on Dodgers. Today's episode is brought to you by Ibotta. If you love the holidays but you hate grocery shopping, Ibotta is here to make your Thanksgiving easier with cash back on everything you need to make your perfect holiday meal. So you can get the turkey and your favorite sides for free. Big holidays mean big family get-togethers, so gather your loved ones and enjoy all the holiday traditions you cherish with the help of cash back from Ibotta. Because this month, November, Ibotta is giving new users 100% cash back on your Thanksgiving feast. Just add the offers in the app to redeem for everything you need to make your Thanksgiving feast complete. All you have to do is shop at your favorite retailers and upload that receipt. The other apps give you points, but that don't amount to much. But with Ibotta, you get real cash back. You can cash out to your bank account, PayPal, or gift cards. You can also earn cash back on hundreds of online brands and retailers when you start with Ibotta. So go download the Ibotta app, check it out. And if you use the code LOCKEDONMLB, you'll get 100% cash back on your Thanksgiving feast starting November 1st. To go to the App Store or Google Play Store, download the free Ibotta app and use code LOCKEDONMLB. That's IBOTTA in the Google Play or App Store, and use code LOCKEDONMLB. Today's episode is also brought to you by Game Time. Game Time is the way to make some new memories, to have some good moments, to get into sporting events, the theater, concerts, all those types of things that require tickets. Game Time can help you get in there. And they have a new feature right now called Game Time Picks that makes getting tickets for your favorite live events even easier because it filters out the fluffs and only shows you the incredible deals on great seats so you don't have to waste time searching through thousands of tickets. So go download the Game Time app, use Game Time Picks, and you also get all the other special things that come with the Game Time app, all-in pricing, views from your seat, the lowest price guarantee, which means if you find tickets in the same section or row cheaper than on Game Time, you'll get credited 110% of the difference. So there's really no downside to checking out Game Time. Go download the app right now, create an account, and use code LOCKEDONMLB for $20 off your first purchase. Take the guesswork out of buying tickets with Game Time. Terms apply. Again, create an account and redeem code LOCKEDONMLB for $20 off. Download Game Time today. What time is it? Game time. I want to thank you for making Locked On Dodgers your first listen of the day. Make sure to find us wherever you get podcasts and on YouTube. We go live on YouTube a lot of nights these days. You can get notified when we're going live if you subscribe on YouTube, or you can just subscribe wherever you get podcasts and get notified when episodes go live. Not live in the moment, but live when they're ready to be listened to. However you listen, we appreciate you. If it's your first listen of the day, your last listen of the day, or somewhere in between. Remember, you can check out Locked On Sports Today and Locked On Sports Los Angeles. Those are two 24/7 streaming channels from the Locked On Podcast Network, bringing you the biggest news and stories from the sports world and the LA sports world. All right, Jeff. Cody Bellinger is, I guess at this point, maybe a little bit of a polarizing name in the sense of some Dodger fans would love to have him back and are maybe even actively asking for it. And some Dodger fans don't want him back at all and are actively saying, don't bring Bellinger back. But it all comes, I'm sure we're going to discuss right now, it all come depending on a few things. But Cody Bellinger, the Cubs aren't going to spend on high-profile free agents. They want to try and trade Cody Bellinger, who has an interesting contract with an opt-out, or could be $52 million over the next 2 years if he ends up sticking around both times or whatever it is. Anyway, is there any way you want Cody Bellinger back with the Dodgers?
I love Cody Bellinger, but I have a hard time seeing it fit. The Dodgers already have, even with Mookie in the infield, if they re-sign Teoscar Hernandez, that means they have at least two guys whose best defensive position is right field. Cody Bellinger would also fit that bill. He's not a good center fielder anymore. If Cody Bellinger was still an elite defensive center fielder, like he was for most of his time with the Dodgers, I'd be all over it. I would be in favor of the Dodgers, maybe taking a chance if they could get the Cubs to eat some of the money. But with Bellinger basically being a right fielder at this point, it just doesn't seem like there's any sort of fit there, especially when you throw in the money that he's owed. At least what is it? So at least $30 million, and could possibly, like you said, as much as 50 million, 55 million. Just doesn't seem to me like it would make sense at all. Unless the Cubs were literally giving him away, eating the whole contract, and asking for one low A prospect in return, maybe. But even then, it's like, well, you still don't need a right fielder.
Yeah, there's really no reason, as the team is currently built, to have Cody Bellinger on this team, and there's not even platoon for him. Like, you look at his numbers from 2024, and between lefties and righties, it's almost the same OPS. You go to 2023 when he broke out again with the Cubs, and you look between, and that year he was just like, he's either good or he's not good. And he had 830 OPS against righties and a 984 OPS against lefties in 2023 when he was good again. So there's no like, oh, he can play this, he can play that. Like, no, if your option is Cody Bellinger, or even if it's Cody Bellinger, Andy Paez at this point in right field, like if they don't re-sign Teoscar, like I don't think that's something I would take. Just maybe if the money was even, but even then, I don't know. I don't think so. Like Andy Paez, you would hope can only get better. Cody Bellinger, you're just kind of at this point, you're hoping that he has one good year again, because there seems to be no consistency, no rhyme or reason. There's really nothing. Cody Bellinger is just a confusing player in this day and age.
Yeah, absolutely. You look at the guys the Dodgers currently have under contract, and it's like, okay, Tommy Edman is a better option in the outfield than Cody Bellinger. Andy Paez is a better option in the outfield than Cody Bellinger. Chris Taylor offensively, no. Defensively, definitely. Kike Hernandez, if they re-sign him, better option. Obviously, Teoscar Hernandez, if they re-sign him. You could make a case that James Outman might be a better option, because at least he's going to be better defensively, probably. And who knows if James Outman will ever remember how to hit at the big league level or not. But you know what? We said that the same thing about Cody Bellinger for a long time. I just feel like, there's getting back with your ex, and then there's whatever it would be if the Dodgers reacquired Cody Bellinger. It's well beyond that. Your ex, generally, exes don't age as quickly as baseball players. Let's put it that way.
Generally there's some change in the, like, they, whatever, started going to church, or they got a better job, or whatever. Like Cody Bellinger is essentially the same guy. Like, you don't know what you're going to get, and now he's worse defensively.
Yeah, and I love Cody Bellinger. I am a huge Cody Bellinger fan, but for what he did in the past for the Dodgers, and not what he's going to do in the future, because I think that is nothing.
Yeah, you look back at, there's the guys that we love as Dodgers, or loved, and Kike came back and he filled a role and he's done what he's needed to do. It's been frustrating a couple of times, but ultimately, it ended with the championship, and he was a part of that. You look at the other guys that are out there, and Cody Bellinger, and a lot of them were brought up again when the Dodgers had their parade, because those guys didn't get parade. And honestly, between Cody Bellinger, Justin Turner, Jock Peterson, I don't think there's any other pitchers. Like, the only one that even makes remote sense is Justin Turner, and that's only if you don't go an extra pitcher and your extra position player, because of the Ohtani two-way spot, is a position player, and you're like, okay, we'll bring back Justin Turner. But like, other than that, none of them really make sense.
Yeah, and even Turner, it's like his two positions are first base and DH, and the Dodgers are doing pretty well at those two positions right now. If Turner was going to come back and immediately get a back injury that puts him on the 60-day IL and just be a de facto bench coach, I'm all about that. I love JT. Love to have him back in Dodger blue, but even he doesn't make a lot of sense. And like you said, Jock, no thanks. People were pushing for Zach Greinke last year when Greinke was still thinking about playing. It's like, he throws 36 miles an hour. Like, it's usually better to leave the past in the past. And Kike filled a role and has, what, to the extent that the postseason gene exists, he has it. Like I said, I watched that recap of the last game of the Padres series, and Kike's home run was awesome, and Kike had some big moments this October. Happy to have him this year. And, if he comes back, great. But yeah, Cody Bellinger, Love you, man. And I'm glad Cody got the money. I'm glad he hoodwinked the Cubs into that contract, and I'm glad the Cubs are regretting it. And whether they pay it or somebody else does, I'm glad Cody got paid, but I'm glad it wasn't by the Dodgers.
Yeah. So no to Cody Bellinger, and I don't think it's ever really been an option or will have been considered an option anyway. So
Not by anybody making decisions. By fans, like everybody heard, oh, the Cubs are shopping Cody Bellinger. Oh, bring him back. Dodgers need a center fielder. And forgetting that Bellinger isn't, or not realizing that Bellinger isn't a center fielder anymore and isn't notably better than he was. What was OPS plus? Yeah, 111 last year. She was, a decent hitter last year, but not nearly good enough to make up for everything.
Yeah. Well, Cody Bellinger was non-tendered a couple years ago, and there were a lot of players from other teams non-tendered this year. Any of them good for the Dodgers? We'll get into it. We'll talk about it. Let's make sure to keep it locked on Dodgers. Today's episode is brought to you by FanDuel. Get ready and continue to tackle the NFL action with FanDuel, America's #1 sportsbook. Because right now, new customers can bet $5 and get $150 in bonus bets if you win. And it's all right there on the FanDuel Sportsbook app. It gives you everything you need to place live bets on the NFL all in one place. And I've been telling you, if you're going to place that first $5 bet to get the $150 in bonus bets, bet against the Raiders. They are not good. They're not going to win any more games, I don't think, this year. And of all the teams, the Titans beat the Texans this weekend, even though they were huge underdogs. The Panthers almost beat the Chiefs this weekend, but you still would have been safe with that pick. But this week, the Steelers lost to somebody. I don't know. Yeah, the Steelers lost to a bad team. The Raiders, that's the team you want to bet your $5 on bet against them because they're not going to win. And all you got to do is get the FanDuel app, and you can, boom, $5 on the Raiders to lose, and then $150 in bonus bets if you win. They play on Black Friday this year, so and they're playing the Chiefs. And last year they beat the Chiefs. So I don't think it's going to happen this year. So all that can be done on FanDuel. With FanDuel, go to FanDuel.com. $150 in bonus bets if you win your first $5 bet. FanDuel.com. Never waste a hunch. Make every moment more with FanDuel, an official sportsbook partner of the NFL. I want to thank you for being an everydayer. If you are one, an everydayer, just someone that listens or watches every day. We appreciate you if you're an everydayer. If you're not an everydayer, but you are listening or watching right now, up your take one more day a week. And then if you like that, you can go up to one more day a week, and then one more day a week, and one more day a week, and now you're an everydayer. But if you're listening right now, we appreciate you anyways. If you're an everydayer, I think we appreciate you just a little bit more. So thank you for that. And, make sure to check out Locked On MLB. Our pal Sully's bringing you things all offseason long about all the other teams, not just the Dodgers. The Dodgers are your favorite team probably if you're watching this, but there are other things going on in the league, and Sully can help you out there. All right, Jeff, like we mentioned before the break, there were some players non-tendered. You talked about the Dodgers non-tendered players, which was Zach Logan, Brent Honeywell, but there were some players non-tendered from other teams, whether because they were bad, whether because teams are cheap, whether because, a few different reasons that we don't have to get into the reasons, but there could be some players that are at least interesting to the Dodgers.
Yeah, nobody who got non-tendered is going to be the starting center fielder. Guys who have the potential to be starting center fielder on a World Series champion team don't get non-tendered. But every once in a while, guys get non-tendered because their teams are cheap and they can still be useful parts. And there's some, for me, I guess, looking through the list of everybody who got non-tendered by different teams last week, there are some interesting names, and a lot of them are pitchers who I kind of think, oh, maybe relief pitcher type, somebody who you have two former closers. You've got Jordan Romano from the Blue Jays and Kyle Finnegan from the Nationals. Both guys, Finnegan, I think, was the Nats closer like this year in 2024, at least for part of the season. Has some decent stuff. He's a guy, with me being an outsider as far as how Mark Pryor and Connor McGinnis work their magic, I don't know exactly what they look for, how they spot a guy like Evan Phillips or a guy like Ryan Brazier and say, oh, we could turn this lousy pitcher into a really good pitcher. So I don't know. And so maybe the right approach isn't to look at guys who have actually been good, like Kyle Finnegan. Maybe I should be looking at Austin Voth from the Mariners. I never heard of that dude, but he's a right-handed pitcher. Maybe Mark Pryor is going to turn him into the best relief pitcher in baseball. I don't know, but a guy like Kyle Finnegan, I wonder, with the stuff that he has, if he could be a guy who would fit. You can never have too many good relief pitchers, and a guy like him. He's a name that jumped out at me because he's had success and had good stuff in the recent past. Yeah,
there's a lot of names here. The one, for whatever reason, Hobie Milner stood out to me, and then I went to go look at his baseball reference page, and maybe because his only good year was 2023, and I maybe saw him pitch a few times because the rest of his career has been bad, but he had a 1.82 ERA and a 3.13 FIP in 2023 and 73 games pitched. But again, I don't think the Dodgers have turned lefties, but I don't think he throws hard. I think he's just a little crafty lefty that pitches in the bullpen. So the Dodgers could use a guy like that, but probably not. They're not looking for soft tossers most of the time. They're looking for the guys that have some spin and throw hard. So
yeah, my only Hobie Milner memory when he was pitching did he pitch for the Angels?
Let's see. Yes, 2020.
Okay, I think it was when he was on the Angels and they were playing the A's, and it was bases loaded, bottom of the last inning, and they brought in Hobie Milner to face Matt Olson, and he gave up a walk-off grand slam to Matt Olson. That's my only. I vaguely remember him pitching against the Dodgers this year, and the Dodgers knocking him around, but that even that's not as clear as the Matt Olson walk-off grand slam. So
yeah, the one again There's a lot of names you can name that are recognizable. That doesn't mean they're good. The one that was interesting only because the Dodgers have gone after guys like this before, and it wouldn't really probably help in this season. Like a guy like Patrick Sandoval with the Angels, he's probably a guy that's due for like a cheap 2-year deal where you're getting most of that value in the second year, but you can have him recover, with your training staff and your team and see what he's got. He's obviously had success in the majors before. There's some like Griffin Canning, who the Braves traded they traded Soler for. He's had success in the past and could be a guy that fills innings, but maybe a lot of these guys are like, you see them pitching for OKC and then they make a couple of spot starts for the Dodgers throughout the year and then probably get DFA'd when they need a roster spot. Like most of these guys on this list are probably those type of candidates, but you never know. Like I said, we don't know what they're looking for. We can, there's people smarter out there on like Twitter and stuff that find, oh, this guy has similar spin rates, or this guy has this pitch, or this guy has this, one dominant pitch, but maybe they don't have much else, and the Dodgers can make use of that.
Yeah, and I remember the Hobie Milner against the Dodgers this year. I remember I was in the car listening on the radio, and he came in to pitch with the Dodgers having bases loaded in a tie game. And I remember I told my son who was in the car with me about that Matt Olson walk-off grand slam in this game. Freddie Freeman, RBI single, Teoscar Hernandez, or Freddie 2-run single, Teo RBI double. So it went from 5-5, 8-5. So yeah, the Dodgers did their trick on Hobie Milner. Some of the other names on this list are who aren't pitchers. A guy like Brendan Rodgers, who was one of the Rockies' top prospects for a long time, had injury issues. I think he's even won a Gold Glove at some point in his career. He's been very good defensively and was supposed to be a good hitter and never quite figured it out. But he's a guy who, maybe it's just because I spent so much time thinking about him and how he's gonna be good for the Rockies. Yeah, he did win a Gold Glove in 2022. While he also led the league in grounding into double plays that year. But he's just never quite put it together offensively. But I wonder if he could be a guy who the Dodgers could turn into, kind of a Chris Taylor but can hit kind of player.
Yeah, I looked at him, and over his career, he's hit lefties 298, 359, 44, 842 OPS. Against righties, his OPS is 677. So yeah, I mean, again, that's over his whole career. Let me see, 2024 specifically, those splits were 686 OPS against righties, 818 OPS against lefties. So if there's a role for a middle infielder that can hit against left-handed pitching, I would hope it's Kike Hernandez, but if it's not, maybe Brendan Rodgers is the name they look at.
Yeah, and Brendan Rodgers was brought up to us by a listener named Dana. He actually left us a voicemail, which you can too. We'll tell you how at the end of the episode. But another guy that Dana mentioned was Josh Rojas, who the Mariners non-tendered. And Rojas is kind of similar. He never had the prospect profile that Brendan Rodgers did. Has been roughly, he's actually been more of an up and down hitter. He's actually had a few seasons where he was a good hitter, and then some seasons where he was really bad, but has more of that utility role. He's actually played a lot of different positions. He's a guy who, maybe we even make more sense for the Dodgers because he plays good defense at a lot of different positions, and has been a decent hitter at times in his career. Is 30 years old, not young, but might be a kind of guy who would fit. Dana, our listener, was high on Josh Rojas a lot because he has played all those positions, including shortstop. He could play all over the place. I don't know. It looks like he hasn't played shortstop much in the last 3 years, but Rojas is definitely an interesting name for sure.
Yeah, it's tough with the way the Dodgers roster is right now because, you think about it, and Miguel Rojas, you're hoping he's not an everyday player, so he's a bench player. Kike, if they re-sign him, won't be an everyday player. Or Kike or Taylor, I'll say at this point. I don't think they'll both end up being there, but, they're probably not going to be an everyday player, so that's already 2 bench spots. You have Austin Barnes, that's 3 bench spots. So there's not much room left in bench spots unless they move on from multiple people. Or, like I said, they instead of using the two-way Shohei, once he gets his eligibility back, instead of using it on another position or pitcher, they use it on another position player, which I doubt they'll do, especially going with the 6-man rotation. But yeah, I mean, at this point for the Dodgers, you're probably mostly looking for starting position players and then minor league deals for guys, guys like Alan Trejo and stuff that played last year in OKC that did ultimately get called up, but they were probably an injury or 2 away from getting called up.
Yeah, Alan Trejo and Josh Rojas have always been the same person in my mind. I think one of them is Nolan Arenado's cousin, right?
Yeah, Rojas.
Or is that Josh Rojas is? Okay.
Did he play with the Rockies?
No.
After he left,
maybe there's a third guy.
No, there's a guy that played for the Rockies because he took over when Arenado got traded, or he played there after the fact.
Yeah. Josh Fuentes.
Yeah.
Third guy. Those 3 guys, same person in my mind. So I don't know which one's good and which one's not. But yeah, so maybe that would just add to confusion. It's like when the Dodgers had Ricky Nolasco, and then later they signed, or they were thinking about signing Anibal Sanchez, because those guys were the same guy to me when they were both on the Marlins. So yeah, I don't know. My brain can only keep track of a certain number of players, and everybody else just lumps into categories like mediocre infielders. So
yeah, but it serves well when you do know some of them when if you still play Immaculate Grid, yeah. I can remember all the ones from 1984. I have no problem with that. That's why I can't remember current players, because my brain is full of, Johnny Rabb, catcher for the Giants, and Johnny Walkenfuss, catcher for the Phillies. Yeah, there you go. All right, Jeff, anything else you want to add before we get out of here?
No, I don't think so. I'm excited. I'm hoping that some of these rumors, maybe we actually get some news this Thanksgiving week instead of just being a news-free week like it often is.
Yeah, it's possible. But the rest of this week, we'll talk through some things the next couple of days. And hopefully the end of the week will be an episode with a World Series champion, actual player, not just a World Series champion podcaster. So stick around for that. And, hopefully that's the way we get into Thanksgiving, by giving thanks to a player that play for the Dodgers in the World Series. So.
Yeah, you're always looking for a reason to get away from your family for a little bit. So we'll give you some good listening for Thursday and Friday to get away from your family.
Yeah. All right. That's going to do it for today's episode. Thank you all for listening. Thank you for making Locked On Dodgers your first listen of the day. Make sure to find us wherever we get podcasts and on YouTube. All you got to do is search for Locked On Dodgers. You can subscribe and get notified when our episodes are ready or when we go live on YouTube. Like we are here on Monday night, you can check out Locked On Sports Today and Locked On Sports Los Angeles, 2 24/7 streaming channels from the Locked On Podcast Network, bringing the biggest news and stories from the sports world and the LA sports world. You can find us on social media, Twitter, Instagram, and TikTok at Locked On Dodgers. You can go beyond the podcast, come to Locked On Dodgers Insider at joinsubtext.com/Locked On Dodgers. Get text directly from us with any breaking news, if there is breaking news, this next week and beyond. You can find Jeff on Twitter at Snydog. I'm at Vincent91. You can DM us any questions or comments if you have them. You can also send those via email, lockedondodgers@gmail.com, or leave us a voicemail. Send us a text at 323-863-5625. We're here every weekday morning, and we hope you'll be here with us. When you get in your car, if you're at home, take smart device, play podcast, Locked On Dodgers. And remember, you don't have to agree. You just have to listen. Have a good one.
We'll talk to you tomorrow.